Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. Had a week off last week. Enjoyed a little summer, but appreciate everyone coming back this week after the week off. We have the great Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football and Fox on the show this week. Football quickly approaching. Get into a lot of stuff with Peter about the upcoming season. Big media changes in terms of TV broadcast stuff. Peter's crazy schedule, doing Good Morning Football every morning, Monday through Friday, and then off to California for Fox. So great stuff with Peter Schrager, always a great guest. And of course, following Peter, we have Sal Licata and Traina Thoughts this week, where we get into a variety of topics, including the scandal with The Blind Side, a little bit of the Johnny Manziel documentary, talk about some NFL win total over-unders with Sal and much more. So Peter Schrager followed by Sal Licata on this episode. Quickly, if you missed it, 2 weeks ago, last guest was Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Got tremendous feedback on that podcast. Everyone who listened to it seemed to have loved it. Really tremendous feedback with Mad Dog 2 weeks ago. So if you missed it, check that out. WWE fan Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes have been on the pod in recent weeks. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic, who was laid off and then took some shots at the company. He was on the pod recently as well. So if you missed any of those, listen to them. Go into the archives, download, listen, subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina, leave a review on Apple. We'll be reading those in a couple of weeks. And appreciate it all. All right, let's get to this week's show. Peter Schrager, followed by Traina Thoughts and Sal Licata, all right here, right now, on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now from Good Morning Football, Fox, on NFL Sundays, regular here on the Media Pod, one of my buddies, Peter Schrager. Schrager, how are you?
You're the best. How good is this? I'm giddy. I like when I see your face on that.
You're
Zoom,
all giddy.
I'm giddy. I get excited. I got a ton of caffeine in me. You know me. I'm shot out of a cannon most days, and I love. It's like I feel like we do 2 a year, and I just can like unload all my thoughts and go into everything NFL related. You're the best.
How are you? Should we tell the people we got together a couple of weeks ago? We did like a mini in-person podcast.
It felt like it was like Camp David or something. Like we're gonna finally meet and do it in person as opposed to just texting.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing session. We were at PJ Clark's right on the water downtown. If you guys are in the paparazzi game and you want to see two celebrities, see me and Jimmy notching our way on 2 Caesar salads in the middle of the day.
It was a good time. It was a good time. We could have recorded that and had a whole media session. One of the things I discussed with you that day, which I want to bring to the listeners, which I find fascinating, is I get into everyone's schedule who has like crazy schedules. Now, I think if you just had Good Morning Football alone, that blows my mind away. I've gone through this with you and Kyle before about this. Like, you're on the air at 7 a.m. There's games on Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. But you add to the insanity by working for Fox every Sunday morning, and their show is on at 11 a.m. Eastern. Good Morning Football's in New York. The Fox thing is in L.A. So I would love to start by just you telling the people your sort of Friday to Monday schedule during the NFL season. Because the reason I had to have lunch with Peter a couple of weeks ago is because once September 1st comes,
it's done.
We're not going to see each other for a long time.
That's our relationship. It's also my relationship with my wife and my kids. Once the season starts, it's goodbye. And I'm going, it's like I come back and I'm like the guy who comes in Times Square and like dips the lady and gives her a kiss, like straight back from Europe after World War II or something. And that's how I feel once the season starts. Here's my schedule for those who are at the edge of their seats on this one.
I love this.
Monday to Friday, my alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning. Okay. In New York City. I live in Brooklyn. I get out of bed. We do a conference call with the entire staff of Good Morning Football, including the 3 other co-hosts who I love, Jason McCourty, Jamie Erdahl, and Kyle Brandt. I then commute into the city, which we have a show in Lower Manhattan. We get there around 6 a.m. I get hair and makeup and a wardrobe session, which means they put me through the ringer like a car wash, and I get some eye makeup and some blush or whatever else. And they also lay out clothes for me like I'm a 5-year-old boy, and I wear what they tell me to wear. We do the show from 7 to 10, but then we have a post-show meeting that probably ranges till about 11 a.m. At that point, the day is quote unquote done. but we've already turned the page till tomorrow's show, and it's start building for tomorrow's show. Now we do this, and around 5:30, we have a conference call / email chain of here are the main topics for tomorrow. Start formulating your thoughts. Tell producers what kind of video you want, what kind of information you might need. And by information, I'm saying, as we're recording this, Dalvin Cook recently joined the Jets. I might say, you know what? Give me all the running backs 28 and older who have changed teams, and let me see that first season. And if there's any precedent of a guy having an even better year on a new squad, and a producer who I trust or a research guy or gal will go in and say, you know what, Corey Dillon, when he was with the Bengals, left, come to the page, whatever. And then we could bring that as like, here's what I've got on that take, So that's Monday to Friday. Now on Fridays at 10 a.m., Kyle proudly will tell me that he dips into his liquor cabinet and is like, all right, the weekend is here.
Yeah.
However, I think,
can I just say, I think Kyle's even told me, like, don't text him on Fridays because he's feeling it.
It's a party. Kyle lives in the burbs. I don't know what they do out there, but it sounds like it's quite a time on a Friday night. They drink. They drink, they dabble. I don't know what they do. Okay. I come back to my apartment in Brooklyn, and I'm immediately on the phones because on Sunday, I'm expected to have 3 or 4 scoops. That's an old school term. That's a Jay Glazer term, scoopage, because I'm one of the reporters / insiders on the Fox crew. And the travel then begins again. Either I'll fly out.
You're expected to have 3 or 4 scoops?
Yeah,
what if you don't, like, what if...
There's no scoreboard and like, hey, Schrager, you're not going to make your salary this week because you only had 2. But I think if you're a self-motivated individual in the competitive world we are, you don't want to get stomped on and have, Schefter and Rappaport and all these guys have 6 new things to bring to the table. And then I come on at 11 a.m. and I'm like, guess what? What they said an hour ago, I'm going to just tell you that that's happening too. You can read Twitter. So I have different relationships than those guys. I've got a different kind of role through Good Morning Football and Fox, where I might have some information that I know they're not going to have. And one of them last year was Cliff Kingsbury telling me after he was fired, he's going to Thailand on a one-way ticket. And, I sit on that for an entire week, get to Fox on a Sunday, and I drop that bomb. And it was the biggest story in sports for a week. That's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. The personal stuff. What Dan Quinn said to his team the night before. What footage of an old boxing match did he show his Cowboys defense? And no one else going to have that. I'll have it. That's where I'm working, but that starts on Friday. Usually I fly out from JFK Airport either on a Friday night, or in the last few years, I've been going Saturday morning so I can have a Friday night with my kids and also with my wife. Saturday morning, usually a 10 o'clock flight from JFK to LAX. That's a solid 7 hours. And if you want to go door to door, it's about 8 hours. Cry from me at a later date. I've seen every movie you can imagine on Delta. I've had every possible interaction in the Delta Sky Lounge, positive, negative, mostly negative.
Why negative?
Have you been to a Delta Sky Lounge lately? It's
I thought you mean like people coming up to you being like, you suck on TV or something.
No, they don't recognize me. They don't give a shit about me, Jimmy. It's more, I'm just sitting there trying to get some cottage cheese and cantaloupe. And right. Some guy, some heathen is in front of me in line and is upset that I'm too close to him. I mean, it is, airports these days are Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, these airports, and I'm telling you, I thought, COVID was horrible for all of us. We all went through that COVID experience. I was still flying. Airports were empty. Flights were empty. It was like the 1950s. I was on like TWA or Pan Am, and it's like, it's like, what would you like, sir? Now it's back to the old days, and it's even worse. So I'm flying 8 hours. I get in usually around Saturday. If I fly at that 10 a.m. flight, usually get in around like 3 o'clock Pacific. I get settled, try to get a dinner with some of my co-hosts. Now, the fortunate thing is I think the Fox NFL Kickoff show, I'll put it up. I think it's as good as any pregame show. And we've got a great crew of guys and gals that I like. Like Carissa's like the ultimate like team captain. And then Charles Woodson, Michael Vick, and Sean Payton, we all got along real well. So we would go out to these dinners on Saturday night. And like, I'm out with these, Charles Woodson has a story every 2 seconds. People, just amazing entertainment and information. And Sean Payton, I can talk for hours on what that experience was like. We're adding a new cast member that I don't think has been announced. I'm not going to be the one to do it here, but damn it. We've got a good crew, and I go out with them on Saturday night. We try to take it easy, probably get in bed around 7 or 8 because it's Eastern time for me. Then I'm up 4:30 Pacific.
Wait, I got to stop you there. When you're going to bed at 7 or 8 Pacific, is that difficult? Like the sun's probably still shining.
Yes,
that's got to be rough.
Yes. I got to stay on.
Right. You have to, because it's only a day. Right.
You have to. And a lot of times when I'm like, we're going out for dinner, a lot of that means we're going to the hotel lobby and we're going to, kick back a couple sodas and take it easy and say, all right, guys, I'm calling it a night. But, by 4:30 in the morning, I'm up and we're in a car, me, Woodson, and Vic, every Sunday morning at 4:30 a.m. Pacific. It picks us up and we're taking a ride to the Fox lot and the lights are bright and it is on and ESPN's already got their pregame coverage going and NFL Network's got theirs and we're putting a show together. I do an hour-long show. It ends around, I guess, let's think here. If it's 11 to 12 Eastern, ends at noon Eastern, it ends 9 a.m. Pacific. I run out of that studio. I am like, you've got executives like Eric Shanks and Brad Zager and Jacob Bowman. These are like heavy hitter guys. Bill Richards, who's the producer of all this stuff. And I'm not rude, but I'm like, they're like, great show, Shriggs. They want to do small talk. I'm like, see ya, I gotta go. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that hurts me like socially in the, I don't play the corporate politics game so hot. Let's just say that I'm out the door. I got to get home because I'm usually on a flight that's taken off around 11 a.m. Pacific. I'll land Sunday around 7:30, 8 o'clock Eastern, do the nightmare of a JFK trip back to Brooklyn on the BQE, which, gosh, Jimmy, I can do an hour on that.
So
alone.
On a Sunday night in the winter, that trip is still bad.
Yeah, bro. It gets worse as the season goes on because you've got the holiday travel. So
right.
It's a nightmare with the airport situations in both LA and JFK. All that said, I fly very nice as it can be because it is what it is. They take care of me that way. The hotel is a beautiful hotel. It just wears on you. And you can tell by my physical appearance right now, I feel good. I'm in shape.
Oh, you looked great when I saw you last week. You looked phenomenal. Yeah.
Slim. I'm like down 10 pounds. I feel great. I am a bloated mess by the time we get to Super Bowl every year. I'm pale as can be. And it's just because the travel wears on you. It's back and forth. Right. I wouldn't want it any other way, but I'll tell you, I land at 8. Tarico is on in my ears. I put on that NFL Plus. I'm like driving back to my house. I got the Sunday night game. Collinsworth's kicking off, whatever. And then you better believe that 4:30 a.m. wake-up call is coming sooner than you even imagine. So it is a whirlwind. The positive, and, as I cry and bitch and moan, I would never want anyone else to have either one of these jobs. So the positive is that 3 o'clock every day, Monday to Friday, I could pick my kids up from school. I have a Friday night off. And the most positive thing is I don't cover baseball because those guys have to do it for 162 games. I have to do it for 20 weeks. Those guys are on the road and I don't know how they do it. It's like I've become really close with some of these play-by-play guys that are very successful. And yet they still choose to take on these 4th and 5th and 6th sports that they cover. Like Kenny Albert and I were talking at a Knicks game, and I love Kenny. He does a full NFL season. Then he does the Knicks on the radio. And then I'm talking to him at a Knicks game because I went to the Knicks playoff game and I see Kenny and we're talking and I'm loving him and he's the best. He's like the nicest guy. And he's like, yep. And after this, I've got to go to, I get to go to like Edmonton because I'm doing Western Conference Finals on TBS or TNT hockey coverage. I'm like, Kenny, can't you say no? And he's like, I love it. Iron Eagle's another one. Like every job you can imagine, somehow Iron Eagle's on it. And I'm like, it's an addiction for all of us. We love it. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that. Because I hope Ian hears this, because I know sometimes he listens, but it's so funny. On Saturday, I flipped on the Jet game. It was in the second half because I wasn't home. I got home. I flipped on the Jet game, preseason game against the Panthers, and Ian's doing it
in Charlotte on a summer weekend.
Within 30 seconds of seeing that, my first thought was, I want to text Ian and say, like, do you really need to do this?
Jimmy, Kevin Harlan calls Packers preseason games.
I know.
The guy calls 82 NBA games a year, calls a full CBS package. The play-by-play guys are a different breed, and they love it, and I respect it.
They love it, yeah.
And I wouldn't want. I watch. I mean, same way with Ian. The Brooklyn Nets will be on, and this is post Durant, post Kyrie, like the Brooklyn Nets, where it's not exactly a tough ticket anymore, and they're on, and they're playing like the Charlotte Hornets on a random Tuesday after the football season, and I'll put it on and Ian's knee deep in it with Sarah Kustok calling the game. And I'm like, Ian, this is amazing. And he's like, yeah, it's my job. I love it.
But that's his regular season job. He's doing Jet preseason on CBS local. And I'm like, why, Ian? But these guys do love it. They absolutely love it.
And I love it too. And I'll tell you, I was joking about the Delta Lounge. I always say, people are like, this time of year, especially with fantasy football, people come up to me and they're like, do you get bombarded with people? I go, I am something, I think I coined this. I'm airport famous. Like that, no one in the street would ever stop me. I'm a generic looking guy. I don't think I stand out. It's NFL Network. It's not ESPN. Airport, I am stopped nonstop by people at the gate. Like, hey, fan of the work, all this stuff. And, when you're that, like, it's great. And the airport interactions are kind of when I realized, like, all right, all this work we're putting in, it is resonating. People do recognize the work. And for the most part, people are, like you said, really positive towards my work. I think, I don't know if they would say otherwise into my face.
Well, I've had this conversation with you and Kyle before. Like, I don't know if you guys fully realize, like, every NFL player watches that show, and front office and so it's not about the amount of people maybe that watch a show. I think it's about who's watching.
It's the juice.
Show.
I've got a lot of juice in that chair. It's you can't put a dollar value on my chair on that show because every NFL building has on NFL Network all day. Our show re-airs. So it's 3 hours and it's from 7 to 10 Eastern. And then it re-airs again for the West Coast. And all these coaches, they get into the building at 6:45 a.m., maybe earlier, and they might not be practicing or doing anything until 9, 10 a.m. So the players have it on in the gym, and it might be on mute or it might be on, but they see it. And then the coaches and the owners and the general managers, they all are watching. And it's almost, I always say, like, our show might not have the same ratings as Get Up, or I think it does better than the Fox Sports 1 stuff for the most part in the mornings, but it's like pretty close as far as like all of us and relatively speaking. But I think it's on everywhere. Our show is like a trade magazine for the NFL. So like if you're in any profession, there's a trade magazine, and in your world, Jimmy, it's like Sports Business Journal or something like that, where you'll read all those things. Ours is like that. And every owner, every coach, every GM.
Let's talk about this season a little bit. We'll get into it. Because I said this before. I said this recently to someone who was on. Like, I think the NFL is set up for an amazing, amazing season, because you have the AFC and NFC East loaded, and they play each other this year. Throw in, so you have, the Jets playing the Cowboys, you have the Giants playing the Jets, you have the Eagles, you have the Bills, the Dolphins. The Patriots are not probably going to be great, but they're still a story because it's Belichick, and the Commanders, they don't count. So you have this amazing thing going on with that. Plus, you have all these other interesting matchups with the Chiefs thrown in. I would be shocked if this is not just like an A+ amazing season for the NFL this year.
Can I add in a couple other wrinkles here?
Oh, there's many wrinkles.
The NFC is wide open. So you got the Eagles and the 49ers. I challenge you to tell me who the third team in the NFC is. And a lot of it is quarterbacks trying to resurrect something in their career, whether it be Derek Carr in the Saints or whether it be Matthew Stafford after last year's, terrible Rams season. And then it's a bunch of young guys, and it's young guys trying to prove that they've got something, whether it be Daniel Jones or Desmond Ridder or Bryce Young, whoever. So that's the NFC. The AFC is loaded. Kyle and I did this exercise on the show. Only 7 teams can make the playoffs in the AFC. Only 7. There are 16 teams in the conference. It sounds very elementary to the listeners. They're like, yes, we know. Try picking your 7 right now. Right. There is an 8th team that's not making the playoffs that you in your head are like, oh, well, that's a playoff team. Whether it be the Ravens or the Chargers, or you think that the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins are all going. They're not. So the AFC is going to be a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And then the other part of it that makes this year so appealing, and I think it's going to be interesting because these might not be the big media markets. You've got a bunch of starving franchises. The Lions, who are going to be really good this year. You've got the Browns, who I think are sneaky good this year. No one's talking about. And then you've got the mother of all of them. You've got the Jets in New York, who haven't been good in forever, that are suddenly 5 primetime games all over the number 1 broadcast teams. And these fan bases, we've kind of experienced it with Buffalo and Cincinnati in the past few years. It's almost like, finally it's our moment, and we're not the team that's getting the 7th CBS broadcast crew. It's our moment. I feel like Lions, Browns, and Jets, they're all going to be good this year. And I think all 3 of those fan bases are going to be feeling the love.
And even outside of that, you have teams that I think are very interesting, like the Bears, like with Justin Fields, the Jaguars, like people, I see some people put like Trevor Lawrence in a
MVP
category,
talk. Sure.
you know, so, the Steelers are always good, but now Kenny Pickett, that second year, there's outside of, listen, we all know about the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals and the Eagles. I think even that's, like you mentioned, even some of those secondary teams who maybe they're not maybe the Bears aren't a playoff team, but there's a lot of intrigue, I think, even with those teams. And I'll give you, you mentioned the Niners. I find the Niners so fascinating this season for this reason too. They're going to have a full season of Christian McCaffrey. I feel like people have slept on because he's always hurt.
Dude, they built an offense. They built an offense.
He does not get hurt,
and they dropped him in.
He does not get hurt.
It's great. So we got to do preseason. It's really the most stressful thing we do on the show, and we've covered everything from every tragedy to owners passing away. I'm like, I get the most stress when we have to make our preseason predictions because it's our names on it, and those clips live forever. Last year, Jamie, to her credit, she took a shot. She was like, the Chargers are going to win the AFC West, and the Chiefs aren't going to make it. Chiefs fans never let her down, and like you've got to live with it, but you got to take some swings. Yeah. This is me not being humble at all. I've learned that humility does you no favors in our industry. Here's my take. I have successfully nailed, and I'm going to have the producers with me, also humbly work on them. I have nailed the last 5 Super Bowl champions. I have nailed them in August. I have nailed them, whether it be the Rams year, the Bucks year, the multiple Chiefs years.
I know you're the Chiefs. Last year.
I have nailed it. I have gotten them right. The last.
That's impressive. They should be like when Good Morning Football starts, the Chiron should say like Peter Schrager predicted the last 5 Super Bowls correctly.
I've learned that you have to be your biggest advocate and brag. Otherwise, no one's going to notice or care. So I'm going to be, pounding my chest on this one. It's going to be insufferable. But you live and you learn, and sometimes you just got to be your biggest fan. So I'll be doing that. And I'll tell you what, I have so much stress over picking this year's Super Bowl teams because I want to be right, but I also think this is the year a little weird stuff happens. It's not going to be chalk. It's not going to just be Eagles Chiefs again. It just won't. And then the other factor is we have to pick our MVPs. And everyone's thinking which quarterback, if Christian McCaffrey, Jimmy, and this Niners team goes 14-3 and Christian McCaffrey runs for 1,000 yards and catches for 1,000 yards, he's the engine. He's the one that makes that thing go. He might be your MVP. If he stays healthy and he plays every game with that offense with Shanahan, it's going to be fascinating to see what he does because I think it's going to be pretty wild. There's also a lot of changes. This is in my world. I just want to get your take on some of these things. We're in for a lot of changes with the broadcasting situation in the NFL this year. Everyone knows Sunday tickets going to YouTube TV. We got to see how that pans out. Who knows? But I think people need to be, there's going to be 5, now I'm going to use the phrase double headers, but they're not really double headers. For instance, in week 2, the Saints play the Panthers at 7:15. This is on Monday night. And then the same time, Browns play the Steelers at 8:15. One game on ABC, one game on ESPN. The flex, I think, is beginning as early as ever before. Isn't the flex starting like week 4 or week 5 this year? Yes, because I've heard that the Jets Broncos might be flex already. I'm like, whoa, they can do that? That's new. Last year, if you remember, the Titans played the Bills week 2, and it was like Steve Levy and those guys on the call, and it was a huge blowout. So everyone turned it over to the Eagles and Vikings. Now, if both those games were close, that game stunk too. Both games stunk. But if both these games week 2 are close, that's interesting that ESPN's going to have 2 broadcasts, an ABC and an ESPN one that they're both going. But even more than that, the streamers there's a Bills Chargers game that I think is on Peacock. Peacock only. Justin Herbert, it's late in the season. It's like week 14. Justin Herbert versus Josh Allen in like late December on Peacock. Peacock only. Okay. I guess I'm getting Peacock, right? I don't know. And there's going to be a playoff game on Peacock only. And there's an ESPN Plus game, right? ESPN Plus only. Yeah. All that is very new. And I think it's going to drive our parents' generation nuts. It actually drives people in my generation nuts because how much do we have to pay for this stuff? But it is what it is. It's a market and it's a free market. And the NFL was like, if we're going to get in the streaming game, we're not going to sit out this round of it. We're going to get a piece of the pie also.
And I'm totally fine with it in the NFL because, one, it's the NFL. They could do whatever they want. Two, every NFL game is special. There's 16 games a week, and that's it. I have a major problem with baseball doing it when there's 162 games, and I'm paying all this stuff. The NFL can get away with it. They're going to, but what as someone who's in this, I think though, we're in it, so we know it. The casual fan,
it's I
think the shit's going to hit the fan when they, like you said.
But I thought that with the playoff game last year. Amazon had a playoff game, Chargers versus Jaguars. Al Michaels and Tony Dungy was on the call, right? Was it Amazon? Was it?
Yes, it was. It was.
And, it's like no one's going to find it. I haven't heard a single peep about people not being able to see that game. Somehow everyone found it.
Right. Well, that's because it's the NFL. I do think, too, there's a little bit of a difference between Amazon and Peacock. Like, so many people have Amazon, whereas it just came out this week. I saw this big chart where they listed the top streaming services in terms of subscribers. Peacock is last. So they'll probably put 5 NFL games on Peacock next year because that's what's going to get people are going to buy it.
The engine. You need to sign up for it. We at the NFL Network last year launched this NFL Plus, and I had this big interview with Aaron Rodgers a couple of weeks ago where he spoke out on Sean Payton, and he said it to me. It's been highlighted on Hard Knocks. It dominated news for a week, and it happened on NFL Plus. It didn't happen on NFL Network. It didn't happen on Good Morning Football, and it didn't happen with me with a pad and a pen writing it for the website. It happened on NFL Plus, and that's where that clip came from. And the NFL is banking on, with all the different innovations that they have with Red Zone and everything, that's going to be a marketable thing. And I'll tell you what, I find myself logging into NFL Plus and watching the old preseason games from this past week because I want to know what happened and want to watch. And there's a market for it. There's a place.
I'm surprised. I don't want to make more work for you, but I'm surprised that the higher ups at NFL Network haven't said oh, Peter Kyle, we need you for a 10-minute NFL Plus show only when you're done doing Good Morning Football. I don't know what,
We'd be willing to do it. Look, if you want to give us a PTI that's just football and the two of us going back and forth, and you want to talk and reopen what that means, yes, we'd be willing to do that. I'm always down to do more work as long as there's more at play.
they're gonna have to try to get content for NFL Plus. It just would seem like a natural fit. Have you enjoyed? I don't think we discussed this, but have you enjoyed Quarterback on Netflix?
I loved it. I
really
did.
Tell me this, because you're plugged in, and I don't know what to believe because I think some of it that's come out isn't true, but some has been true with all these quarterbacks turning down season 2, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe we did talk about this. Why are you turning down this opportunity when they're never going to make anybody look bad? They're only going to make you look good. So why this? People there's this sense of I turned it down. Okay, but they're going to make you look as good as possible.
Yes, the individual will of course look as good as possible. And I think we all came away. I did a list after the start of the first week of training camp. I said the 5 biggest winners of the summer, and I said I think number 1 is Kirk Cousins. Total image rehab from quarterback. You come away and you're like, how do you not love Cousins? He's tough as shit. His wife is awesome. He's a great family man, and he just loves the game and he puts everything into it. That was not the narrative on Kirk Cousins going into last year's season, but it is this season. Right. The issue is for these young quarterbacks, you start having the cameras around. I think they feel like it's a little bit too much me. And let me just focus on this and get some success first before it happens. But I do find, and I'll give credit to, it's such a cottage industry. We've got our sports media industry. We've got our football news industry. Dove Kleinman and JA football and ML football and all these feeds that I feel like there's a whole niche in just reporting on who said yes or no to the quarterback series. Right. Every day there's a new story, and I'm just laughing because I'm like, I know the Omaha guys. I'm sure they're fully invested in doing this. And until I see a press release saying which 3 quarterbacks are doing it, I'm not believing any of this stuff.
Right. There was a report early on from one of those sites about 3 quarterbacks who were supposed to do it.
It was wrong. It was Daniel Jones is doing it. I'm like, no, he's not.
And I texted or I emailed someone at Omaha, and they're like, yeah, this is not true. I'm like, I'm not paying attention to any of this stuff. I mean, Daniel Jones said he's not doing it on WFAN in his own voice. I'll believe it.
If they say I'm not doing it, all right, fine. But I also, it's a great show. And I think a bigger thing out of that, what a great little thing for it to be on Netflix, which has kind of resisted a relationship with the NFL, or I don't know, but that was the first big NFL show on Netflix, and it was the number 1 trending show for about 2 weeks. And every barbecue I went to this summer, every social gathering, someone said to me, "Did you watch The Quarterback?" And I said, "Of course I watched The Quarterback." He said, "Was that your voice all over The Quarterback?" I said, "Of course that was my voice all over The Quarterback. I'll gladly be the voice of The Quarterback," which our show was, kind of transitioning place to place. But Mahomes came out great. Brittany Mahomes came out great. And I think people hated on her for a long time. Now you know what she's all about. So yeah, if you're an individual and you're a quarterback, you absolutely should do it. But if you're a young quarterback whose team maybe isn't there yet, maybe you don't want all that with you.
You know, you called it a barbecue, and Kyle went on a whole rant that it's a cookout, not a barbecue.
Okay. I grew up in Freehold, New Jersey. We call it a barbecue.
So do we.
That's what we call it. Yeah. I've been spending a lot of time in the Long Island Railroad system, Jimmy. I gotta tell you.
God bless you. I feel for you. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
What decade is that thing from?
I did it for 20 years, and I don't know. I mean, COVID put an end to that. And when I go into the city, I'm like, how did I do this every day, twice a day?
Jimmy, they don't have phone chargers.
They don't. Well, okay, so
they don't have electrical outlets.
There are newer trains that have outlets at every seat. However, there's not a ton of newer trains. This is how I sum up the Long Island Railroad for people not in New York, not in Manhattan, not in Long Island. This is what, if you're around the country, the rail system here in New York, where you go from Long Island into Manhattan, this is all you need to know. They still use a 3-hole puncher.
Yep. The guy comes around in a hat.
Tickets. Yeah. And a
gentleman
3-hole
comes
puncher.
around in a hat and
well, it's not a 3-hole puncher. What's it? It's just one. Oh, it's a 1-hole puncher. A hole puncher. Yeah.
Or you can get the monthly pass, and now that's like having Willy Wonka's ticket.
I want to get into some non-football stuff. I'm going to ask you one last question. Give me. I'm putting you on the spot because I don't know if you know this. I'm sure you know the schedule, but give me a week 1 game you're most intrigued by, most looking forward to.
I'm a company man. I'll jump right into it. Packers Bears is fascinating. I don't know anything about Jordan Love in real action. I don't know anything about Justin Fields with DJ Moore, and I'm not sure it's released yet, but I'm pretty certain this would be the case. And I was at the Fox seminar where they put us all off site. I'm sure it was announced, but I mean, I would be shocked if that's not Burkhart and Olsen, our number 1 crew, the 2 logos of Packers and Bears, and maybe that dynamic changing and the Bears being the team now.
Who do the Eagles play? Who do the Eagles play week 1?
The Eagles, I don't know who they play offhand.
Fox wouldn't send them to the Eagles.
It also might be one of the primetime games. I'm not sure.
Well, no, that's Cowboys and Giants, and then Monday night Jets, Bills.
I don't know who the Eagles play. That's good.
They
good
play
podcasting.
Do they play the Vikings? No, that's week 2. They play.
That's week 2. This is really good content. Keep this in.
People don't listen. It's fine. We're just talking. Dolphins Chargers week 1. I think is I think people, because of all the attention around the Jets and the Bills, the Dolphins are not getting sort of the credit I think they deserve here.
They're getting no credit. And they were a playoff team last year and had Skylar Thompson in a playoff game and nearly beat Buffalo. They're good. Right. And they added Vic Fangio. Right. They're really good. Yeah. Are they good enough to make the playoffs? Well, it all depends on that quarterback and if you're a believer or not.
Yeah. And the Chargers always have a lot of pressure on them.
We had the question today. You tell me, Chargers have Kellen Moore. They've got amazing wide receivers. It's very easy to say, oh, the Chargers are going to be great. They don't ever fulfill those January expectations they lost last year. Is it okay to get on board with the Chargers, or is there like so much scar tissue that you're hesitant? To
quote a great line from Succession and Brian Cox,
serious people.
The coach is not a serious person.
Go on, I love him. I know him. Obviously, I'm not
talking about personally, but the coach is not a serious person when he's going for it on like 4th and 30 from his 20. Although that makes no sense mathematically. All right, tell me now. You've had a little off season here. What are we watching? What have we dipped into? What do we want to recommend to the people? Because you're as good with the pop culture stuff as anybody. What should people go non-football? Don't pump up the NFL Network. What should people go watch? All
right. Did you do The Bear?
Yes. Season 2, I'm not finished. Okay. I love season 1. I think I've watched 2 episodes so far of season 2. I like The Bear.
Binged it this summer. Delightful.
Delightful. I wouldn't know. I don't know if delightful is the word to describe.
Delightful in that I'm satisfied in a way that I'm satisfied with Succession, where I'm like, they nailed the landing. They did it all. It's well written. It's great. Love went from hating all the characters to loving all the characters to hating all the characters. And then there's a couple cameos. You're like, where the hell did that come from? Can I tell you?
Right.
I did not see Barbie. I might. Everyone seems to love it. It's definitely a pop culture thing.
Right.
I thought Oppenheimer was freaking amazing.
I did not see it, would not see it, not my cup of tea.
Bro, why not?
And
can I tell you what I did? So
I can't do 3-hour movies.
Yes, you can.
I can't do it. I don't have the attention span.
Let me tell you something. So Oppenheimer came out, the Barbenheimer thing. I missed the first 2 weeks. And then I'm like, all right, now that the hype has buzzed down a little bit, right. I love U.S. history. I have no shame in telling you this. I watched and found it on YouTube, the A&E biography, half-hour show. Remember A&E biography when we were kids?
Oh, yeah, sure.
1997 it was made on J. Robert Oppenheimer. And right. I watched the half-hour thing, and I implore all of your listeners, if you're going to go see Oppenheimer and you might think you're the biggest World War II whiz and you might know everything about it, watch this A&E biography. So you at least have a baseline knowledge. And then you go into this thing, and Jimmy, it is awesome. I loved it. I don't think it's getting enough love. I think Barbie stole the headlines. I thought Oppenheimer was incredible. You
should really listen to Chris Russo as much as you can. He had on the author of the book.
The book, of course.
That the movie was based on for like an hour one day last week. And I'm like, what is it?
And was it good listening?
I had to, move on to
Let me tell you something. I love your Twitter feed, but what I love the most about it is you're honest. Everyone was, wagging their tongue about Hard Knocks. You come out, you're like, nah. All right. I also love.
Well,
we'll get back to it. You post the clips of Russo that I would never hear. I'm not in the car. I live in New York City. I don't have Sirius.
That's why I do it.
And your stuff with Russo, and I know he called you his fifth son or whatever he called you. It kind of gives context to the Chris Russo that everyone else in America is seeing on Wednesday, and it's like, I don't like his takes on the LeBron and the Lakers. No, guys, like Russo is a 40-year institution in our lives, and his takes on Otto Graham and Oscar Robertson are far more entertaining for us than any thoughts he has on where James Harden's going as a free agent.
100%. What I want the people who just know him from First Take to understand, because I think a lot of people see him on First Take and they think it's an act and it's shtick. And it's like, I can assure you, this is not shtick and it's not an act. I remember once he came to the SI office to do the podcast, and I introduced him to like the managing editor, and he just like went off in a mean way,
but he went
off in like the Mad Dog way about he's like, you had the September issue and you did not put this guy on the cover. I was surprised. This guy should have been like, it's
Jeff
not
Kent should have been on that issue, and you instead went with Fred Taylor.
So when I see people criticize First Take, like it's shtick, I'm like, it's so not.
No, it's not shtick. He's authentic, which is, and that whole JJ Redick thing popped up. I think they've come together, and I think JJ actually likes him. But that first thing with Redick, and I was like, I almost wanted to call JJ, who I don't know, and I'd be like, no, like that's not the guy. That's not your straw man. Like if you want to come at someone else, but Russo's different. Like Russo is a New York institution.
He really is.
The other thing is your Howard Stern love, which we share.
Yeah.
Did you see?
I know what you're going to say.
A minor thing. All right. This is
you
crazy.
Say it.
So I don't know where you stand on Barstool. I like those guys for the most part with their content. And Portnoy obviously has this big sale and he's a big store. He had a tweet yesterday that he went to a very exclusive concert. There was an Ed Sheeran concert at a place called Stephen Talkhouse, which is in Amagansett, probably 100 people. And Ed Sheeran performed, and he gave a list of the people that were there. And one of them was Howard Stern out in public amidst a bunch of people at a concert. Jimmy, we know Howard. I didn't know he even left the Southampton bunker.
He's been out and about now for a while.
But at a concert?
Yeah, he's been doing stuff. And here's what's funny about that. In my column today, this is Tuesday. So if you go to Tuesday's Traina Thoughts on SI.com, I have a video in there of Jerry Seinfeld arriving at the Ed Sheeran concert. Someone tries to get his attention and say hello. And I don't know if they're asking for a picture or an autograph. And Jerry did a vintage blow off.
The Kesha?
So, this was not as bad as Kesha, but it was a major hand wave. And it was a hand wave with a fake smile because him and his wife were talking to someone and someone was shouting at him. And he just turned and he was so if you want to see that video of Jerry, so when I saw that video, I saw it on TikTok. I went to that person's TikTok account And they had a ton of videos of all these celebrities Paul McCartney was at the Ed Sheeran concert. Like, that's how big Ed Sheeran is.
So let me give you a little behind the curtain. This is in the Hamptons. This is in a place that is like any Huntington or Long Beach bar. It's called Stephen Talkhouse. They do live music. A couple years ago, Mumford & Sons played a concert there. Right. Dave Matthews did one. But most part on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, it's a bunch of 20, 30-year-old kids and they listen to a 90s covered band. Right. Very secretly, Sirius puts on this Ed Sheeran concert and invites all the heavy hitters who are out in the Hampton. The list was Sir Paul McCartney, Billy Joel, Bon Jovi, Jerry Seinfeld, Gwyneth Paltrow, Howard Stern, Robert Kraft.
James Corden was there.
And then I see Portnoy's in the mix, and I'm like, Dave Portnoy is an incredibly self-made man. I've never been jealous of the guy. I love all the pizza reviews. I was genuinely jealous seeing him hang out with Howard Stern and Billy Joel. I mean, if there's a Venn diagram of my childhood, those are the shaded parts.
I'd be jealous of him selling his company for $550 million and buying it back.
Can't live that way. Can't live that way, Jimmy.
Before we go, I just want to say one thing about, because you mentioned Hard Knocks. What I had said, which of course nobody pays attention to, like the full quote. If you are a Jets fan or an Aaron Rodgers fan, you should watch it. You'll love it. It's the best thing you'll ever see. If you're not a fan of the Jets or Aaron Rodgers, nothing happened in that episode. There was no storyline. There's no like, this guy's trying to make the team. This is a position battle, which is what Hard Knocks has been known for. Remember the scene when he was on the Dolphins, which I think everyone forgets, when Chad Johnson got cut? Like, that was amazing. Like, if that happened today.
Joe Philbin brings him in after domestic abuse. I mean, that was a very heavy scene. And
there was none of this. This was all Aaron Rodgers on the Jets.
3 years
and
ago,
excitement
Antonio
around the Jets.
Brown walked off the practice field, and we had all the access to it, and they showed it. It was great with the Raiders. Real quick, because I know you're brushing me off here. Your boy Sal Licata, who I love, has already whacked at that hornet's nest a few times. And I got to tell you, New York sports needs it. He came out and his take was absurd on Hard Knocks, that this thing was an example that Salah's not the leader. And, the way it is that this totally clipped. Okay. Then he had the Pete Alonso take that Alonso's a cancer. And then of course someone responded to him.
That was not his take. See, you're falling into the trap.
But let me tell you something. I was going to give a compliment.
Okay, go ahead.
WFAN, which I've been listening to since I was 4 years old, blew up their programming, and I'm waiting for someone to step up in that Mike and Chris thing. I love Gio in the morning. I think he's got something to say. He's tremendous. I got to be honest. I don't know all the other personalities. I don't listen in the drive time. I haven't in years since Mike and Chris left. All I see is Sal Licata making comments, and people are reacting and people are upset. That's some of the juice in New York sports. You gotta try. You gotta whack at the hornet's nest, and he's doing it. So whether you love the take or not, Sal's taking his whacks.
He's not afraid to put out a take. And what he said was, the Mets clubhouse had issues. And he said that trading Alonso could be a way to sort of fix some of those issues. He did not call Alonso a cancer or say Alonso was toxic.
See, I took his words right out of his mouth.
Well, because I think there was a tweet where the wording was not what he never said that Alonso was. He said that there's issues in the clubhouse that have to be fixed. Maybe you get, because I guess there's also this whole thing, like the Mets have not re-signed Pete Alonso to a big contract. So there's an undercurrent about why that hasn't happened. So that's what's going on there.
I feel like he's filling a void. Sal has a chance to be
I
a
agree.
big guy here, and I'm rooting for him.
Me too. I agree. And he'll be on after you after this.
Of course he will.
We already taped it. We'll break the fourth wall.
That's fine.
We already taped it. Before I let you go, give me like the next 2 weeks. You relax, or now you're in full football mode?
This is full football mode.
Football mode, right.
So I also, in the last year, started a podcast with the NFL and iHeart called The Season with Peter Schrager. And again, humility gets you nowhere. I've learned in our little world. You got to be your biggest advocate. I love doing it. I love it. It's my own solo thing. And because I have these relationships, I've been asking for favors, which I feel a little weird doing, but I'm like, I'm booking the guests and I'm booking guys that are not doing any other shows. So the part of my take guys, they get a lot of the coaches and they do a great job with it. These are the GMs. These are the decision makers at the top of the organization. And because I've known a lot of these folks for 10 years, 15 years, I'm asking them to come on my podcast. They're against their better judgment. Like, Schrager, I'll do it for you. And I'm loving it. And it's fantastic. And that's going to be a key driver for this season for me. The Good Morning Football thing is an amazing platform, and I absolutely love that show. And that's my first priority. And Fox is my other first priority on the weekends. But to have my own individual thing, if you enjoy my stuff on Good Morning Football or me screaming about LaGuardia and JFK, there's a lot more of that there.
It's great for the hardcore football fan. There's phenomenal insight there from people like you said you don't hear from all the time. So it's The Season is the name of the podcast. And of course, we see Peter Monday through Friday on Good Morning Football, and then on Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Jimmy, have you been watching Good Morning Football? We're already humming. Like, I don't know if you watch it.
I saw the pool party. I like the game with the silhouette. Guess the quarterback.
Fun,
yeah.
We're humming. It's crazy. I don't have all the data, and I'm sure there is someone who does. I've been told anecdotal evidence. NFL Network, and specifically our show, does bonkers numbers in August. And that's because of
all the fantasy
drafts.
Football. Yeah.
And all 32 teams fans think this is the year. So we got Jaguars fans and we've got Lions fans, and they're all in. And we air all the preseason games. So I would encourage everyone. I love our show. I put our show up against anybody. We were snubbed from the sports Emmys this year. One of the great atrocities that's going on in the world right now is that. I have since gotten and licked my wounds, but I really love our show. I think it's creative and it's different than every other show on television.
Anyone who listens knows I watch. I've pumped that show up since day one. I love it. And I love you guys. You guys are always fun. I love the way you do things there. So, and I appreciate you coming on. I know now we lose Peter Schrager now. Yeah.
See you in February.
Enjoy the season. It's going to be a good one.
I will. You're the man, Jimmy. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Take it easy. All right. Joining me now after a week off, one of the co-hosts of the Midday Show on WFAN, host of Baseball Night in New York on SNY in New York, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how are you?
Good. I can't even believe it's been a week off. After hearing you say that, I feel like we didn't even miss a beat.
There was so much to discuss last week, too, because I went to Mad Dog's show at Bar A, and there was a couple of other big topics I wanted to discuss with you. And got to give Shelby a break. Got to take a little time off in the summer. We are quickly approaching the end of this horrific time, and the football season is almost here. I have started this week dipping into the over-unders in the NFL. Have you looked yet?
Not yet. I have not done fantasy prep. I have not done over-unders. I did watch Hard Knocks. That's about as, and obviously I know a little bit about the Jets and Giants, but no, as far as my betting football preparation, I have not done it yet.
Let's back up a second. How many fantasy football leagues are you doing this year?
Dude, this is the thing. It happens every year. I tell you, you led the way many years ago. I'll never forget. You remember my old studio apartment in the city that you've been in many times?
Yeah.
I was lying in bed reading the phone, and I either saw a tweet or we were texting about it, and you were like, I'm not doing fantasy, and it's been the greatest thing ever. It was something along those lines, but I remember where I was.
When I tell you I haven't missed it, 0.01%. I'm not lying. The only thing I liked about fantasy football the last few years, it's probably been now 6 or 7 years since I gave it up. I loved the draft because we always did an in-person draft. None of this computer bullshit. It was always in person. It would be an all-day event, and it would be like, 8 hours of ball busting and having fun with my friends. Once the draft was over, and I would drive back to my house after the draft, I'd be miserable. I don't want to pick up kickers at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to sit there on a Sunday because I'm in 2 leagues and I've got Tom Brady in 1 league, but I'm playing Tom Brady in the other league. Then I've got a wager. I've got, the Vikings +6, and here goes, but I'm playing against Kirk Cousins. It was so unenjoyable from the minute the draft ended till the season was over. I said, now listen, if I didn't have the degenerate gambling, maybe I would still play fantasy. But if you're betting, and I'm a quantity bettor, I don't bet huge amounts, but I like to bet a lot of games. So if I'm betting 6 1 o'clock games and 3 4 o'clock games, I don't need fantasy football in any way, shape, or form. And I am not lying when I tell you I have not missed it for 1 second.
I stopped prior to the pandemic, and I might have missed it a little bit initially, but I got over it quickly. And then after the pandemic, I was so starved and excited for the return of football or sports. that I got back involved. And I haven't been able to get out since. And I think this year, I went from last year 3 teams. This year, I'm either going to do 1 or 2. I've already committed to 1 that I'm partnering with somebody at SNY. So I'm into that one. But dude, you're right. Like it's always one of those like that you commit to something and you have instant regret every single time. Draft is fun. After that, I knew I had a problem when legitimately 3 a.m. I would set an alarm so I could pick up the Falcons defense off the waiver wire. Like,
there you go. I rest my case.
What am I doing? Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And my other issue too is, I was always in a friend league, which is the one we did in person. But then I'd be in like maybe a work league, maybe this league. Right. And those leagues, the drafts were done like on the computer. And I'm like, I don't even enjoy this. The Yahoo 30-second clock is running down. I got to click this. I don't know what. And I'm like, the draft isn't even fun. So outside of the one day of the year where you do a live draft in person, there's absolutely nothing I miss about fantasy football. Nothing.
Here's last thing on it. I love the challenge of trying to build a good team, but immediately realize that it is such bullshit and luck and out of my control. And I care so much and it bothers me so much. So
that's ridiculous.
But it's extra aggravation. I know that it's luck and bullcrap, but you lose a bet, that's on you. You make a bet, whatever, like it happens, but you're going to get angry with it. With fantasy, to me, it's a different level of just unpredictability and luck involved, and it drives me nuts. It's not healthy for me.
Well, I am of the belief that fantasy is all luck. Now, let me explain because I know right away what people are going to attack that comment. If you're playing fantasy football, and especially if you're in a league that I'm in, I'm going to assume that you know that Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Christian McCaffrey are good fantasy football players. Everyone knows who the good fantasy football players are. Now, yes, you may have a little shrewd inkling, let me get this rookie. This guy's a backup. I get it. But on a week-to-week basis, it's going to come down to injuries. That would be the other thing. There'd be weeks I would have the second or third highest score in the league, but I lost because I played the guy with the highest scoring.
Right.
Luck is, you could have your quarterback play. He doesn't play the fourth quarter because they're blowing the team out, this and that. I think 99% of it is luck, and that got too annoying for me to deal with as well.
Agreed, 100. We like to think, no, it's me, made the smartest moves. Right. No, it is total luck. Who you play, when you play, injuries, this and that. You're right. It's too much. It's unnecessary aggravation.
Right. Like you draft Tom Brady knowing he's the best quarterback in the league, but then his team has like a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. So they run the ball every down and you don't get the last 20 yards you need. Like that's all luck.
Right. So, no, I know. Yeah. I get it. Right. Guys taking it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But back to my original question. You have not scouted the over-unders.
I have not.
I have been scouting and I get very nervous when there's a lot that I like. And I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got already 5 that I'm eyeing and like 2 or 3 that I love.
Are we going to do these for the pod or no? Because
we'll probably do
that,
them. We'll probably do them. But let me just say, early scouting. I love the Giants over 7.5. And they're plus 100.
That makes no sense.
Darren Waller addition. Great coach. Now, very hard division, hard schedule, but you can't. The Giants can't go 8-9 this year. I find that hard to believe.
I'd be stunned if they don't do that. There is. You're right about the coach. They're getting overlooked. See, I was going to tell you the reason why I don't love over-unders is because of the vig usually. But you're telling me the Giants at 7.5 is plus 100
on DraftKings? It is, yes, sir.
I would jump at that. I'm going to bet it regardless, but I'd jump at that number.
Now, speaking of the VIG, this one is minus 140, but the Chief total is 11.5. Now, outside of a Patrick Mahomes injury, they're not going to go 12-5, the Chiefs. They're still the best team in football by far.
Yeah, I don't like those high numbers. I remember you did it last year with the Bills. Did the Bills get it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, that's you're good. You're better at that than I am. Usually, I would look for the lower ones.
You think you can see the Chiefs again, barring a Mahomes injury. You think the Chiefs could go 11-6? I don't see it. They're not losing 6 games.
I mean, probably not. The VIG would scare me a little bit, and plus, I'm just one of the guys. Like, I get skeptical of that high number. A lot has to go. Like, if Mahomes misses 3 weeks, would you then change your mind?
Probably not, because I saw Chad Henne doing that one game when he came in, it all depends when he gets hurt and what the schedule is too. If he's
AFC, yeah, that's true. AFC loaded. I don't know. I'd have to look at it a little bit deeper, but my initial instinct I'd agree with you. It wouldn't be one that I would bet.
And the other two I jotted down. I like the under 9.5 for the Browns. I think Deshaun Watson is shot. I don't think.
Okay.
They're in a tough division. I think the Steelers are going to be good. The Bengals, obviously, and who was the other good team in that division? I don't even. And then Arizona's total is 4.5. Now, I get it. They stink. But I think Cliff Kingsbury was a big problem. Terrible coach. I think Kyler Murray has got to turn it. He can't be that. They can win 5 games. The Rams aren't that great. I don't even know, but it's not Cliff Kingsbury.
That is true. Not Kingsbury. Take the over.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't watch, I assume, the Johnny Manziel documentary?
Not yet. I want to, but I have not gotten around to it.
It's not good, and my God, Cliff Kingsbury does not come off well in that at all.
Not surprised. I hated that hire. I thought what they did to Steve Mills before him and Josh Rosen was ridiculous. Not to say that Rosen would have panned out, obviously, but I hated that, and now it's blown up on him. Jonathan
Gannon is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
I still don't even know who that is.
And the Manziel doc, it's 45 minutes of he was a legend at A&M, and then 15 minutes of he was a disaster in his personal life. It was not good.
Yeah, I lived that in real life, so I don't think I need to see the documentary. I mean, we all saw it.
Well, that's the thing. You learn a couple of things. Like, they lied about, I guess, his camp portrayed his family as having a lot of money, and that was all a lie. They didn't.
Okay.
He says at one point he was going to spend. He went to Vegas. He was going to try to spend as much of his money as possible and then kill himself. And then they didn't. And then the gun malfunctioned. And then they didn't cover anything after that. Like, that was it. There was no. So, but there's a lot of stuff I still have to watch. I haven't watched any of the new season of Winning Time.
Me neither. There's 2 so far, right?
Yeah, I got to try to do. Here's what I've realized: I can't watch stuff in the summer. During the day, I can't watch it. If it's nice, I'm either working or then I go to the pool or the beach. And then on the weekends, I don't know, like I'm doing, I don't have, you're always saying you don't have time because you have the family, but in the summer especially, I find it very hard to sit down and watch shows in the summer.
No, only at night. And now for me, with the Mets and Yankees being irrelevant, it opens up some time at night instead of watching either of those games. So now I maybe have a little bit more time. But I'm with you. During the fall/winter, you're basically home indoors for the most part all weekend long. Right. You're catching up on shows. You're watching new things.
Right.
Much harder in the summer when you're out and about doing stuff outside.
I've had the Wham documentary written on my list of things to watch for like 2 months, and I just can't get to it because I'm
behind on Dark Side of the Ring. I'm still haven't finished the Bam Bam Bigelow episode. I got a couple of those.
Yep, I got a couple of those to watch too. Shoot, you just mentioned the Mets and Yankees. I'm watching the Yankees now more than ever because I'm enjoying the demise, and I'm hoping it'll lead. I know they said they're not going to fire Cashman, but every one of these losses, I love it to death. It's so good. Get him out.
Brandon, my partner, BT, Brandon Tierney, was saying the same thing. He's rooting for a bloodletting because he hopes that more losses like they had on Sunday will lead to a change with Cashman.
That's my thinking, but Hal Steinbrenner just doesn't care. Like, they're making money, so they don't care if they win the World Series. They're just happy making their profit. But, I had the last pod we did, we were off last week, 2 weeks ago. I had Dog on, and Dog's whole thing was forget the performance of the team. Cashman's been here 25 years. No GMs last 25 years. Like, he should go just because it's been too long.
Right.
I'm saying he should go because it's been too long and because he has not made any good moves in 10 years. That's the issue. I mean, I shouldn't say any good moves. He's had so many bad moves, and the way he puts the team together and his fetish for players who are injured and get injured all the time, it's enough already. But
agreed.
I don't What I would like the New York media and the people who cover the team specifically to get into is, why does he have a job for life? That's what I would like to know. Why? I don't understand.
The only stuff that I've heard is that because it's familiarity with Hal and because the industry believes that the Yankees would be moronic to move on from Cashman. Like, how would they ever get anything better? How would they be as stable as an organization? Like, the Cashman is so highly regarded around baseball that we are, as fans, misinformed in this regard.
Well, here's what I know as a misinformed fan. They haven't been in the World Series since 2009. I don't need and not only that, it's not just that they haven't been to the World Series in 2009. They get to the playoffs and then it's an embarrassment every year. The Astros embarrass us. We had to do everything in our power to beat the Guardians last year. That was they won the series and it was an embarrassment.
Right.
And everyone blaming Boone. The poor guy has nothing to do with it. It's just ridiculous. It's enough. It's just enough already.
And now they might have their first losing season in 30 freaking years. Hard to believe, but the Yankees have had that sustained success to a certain extent, and now I think they're going the wrong way quickly. Where this may be a dark period if they continue on with Cashman and company.
Well, at some point, the Joey Gallo stuff, the Frankie Montes stuff, all these guys, Carlos Rondon, all of this is going to catch up to you eventually. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you. He's been able to cover it up. Like, he brings in Gallo stinks, so then they bring in Benintendi, and then he's gone, but then they bring in Harrison Bader. Like, it's just, we can cover it up because we have this payroll. At some point, the record is the record. So,
well, they're also not. They're not
drafting.
They're not drafting and developing. They're not trading for the right prospects. They're not trading their prospects for the big target that's out there. Last year, Luis Castillo, they could have gotten him. Instead, they hold on to guys and they get Frankie Montas. They're not spending at the big end anymore. They had a list of shortstops 2 years ago. They trade instead for Josh Donaldson and IKF. Like, they're not. They used to spend $50 million more than the next team. Now they're not even the top spending team. So it's a culmination of a lot of things. The Yankees have become just another team.
But this is the lesson every baseball fan should learn, and especially people around the Yankees. Spending money does not equal winning.
Right.
Now, listen, you can't be the A's. You have to spend
something. Like, they needed a shortstop instead of the Yankees typically going out there and spending on a top shortstop. Right. They trade for IKF, which was just like moronic. Like, I'm not saying you're right. You don't have to spend, but in some spots you do. Right. Because the flip side of that is they were one of the only teams that could pay Stanton, and he comes in and that contract's a disaster. So just because you can spend it, it doesn't mean it's going to work. I know someone who went to a Yankee game 2 weeks ago. I don't know if this is true. They told me a hot dog there is $16. I find that hard to believe. But if that's the case, that's why Hal Steinbrenner doesn't care if they win the World Series. $40 to park, and that was not where I thought you were going. I was like, oh, what's he going to say here? They told me the price for a hot dog is $16. God, Can you imagine a hot dog for $16? No thanks.
It must have been, I don't know, a 2 foot long or something.
Yeah, I know, right.
Do you care at all about this Blindside thing with the? Did you see the movie? I never saw the movie.
Saw the movie. You never saw it?
No. Listen, I don't know if we have time to get into it. In my opinion, I would say 96.35% of sports movies are terrible, and especially the movies like Rudy, The Blind Side.
What?
Give me
Hoosiers. Have you seen Rudy?
I got it. The underdog comes through. Nice concept. I got it. Every sports movie, the underdog.
I don't know if we could be friends anymore. Like, The Blind Side is one thing. Rudy is.
I know. The underdog comes through. The little shit guy.
You are a savage. You cold-hearted, Twitter blocking, unfollowing.
And I'll tell you the other movie I despise. Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Oh my God, the sappy bullshit.
I don't love it as much as everybody. Rudy, we will disagree on.
Give me Summer Catch. Give me Varsity Blues. Give me Wildcats.
Yeah, I like those movies too. But come on. Blindside, I did see a long time ago. Love the story. I got to be honest with you. I'm disgusted by what these people did. And if it is true, that they swindled Michael Oher into this, they should go to jail for life. Steal this poor kid's life. The whole thing's a fraud. And fooling us all into thinking it's a feel-good movie, they should go to jail for life.
I saw some people on Twitter say that Sandra Bullock should give her Oscar back. I mean, that seems...
Stop.
She still did the performance.
Man, that's not on Sandra Bullock. She didn't know that the whole thing's a farce. Come on.
But see, that's... Okay, so the whole thing's a farce, but it could still be a good movie, right? Or no?
No, I have no problem with the movie, but you know the deal. Like, the parents lied. They never adopted him. The big part of the movie was that they adopted this kid and raised him and all that stuff.
Do we know, like I said, I didn't see the movie and I didn't care enough to do, like, why is he coming out with this now? Do we know that part of it?
I don't. I'm assuming it's because he found out that he was swindled, that they never actually did adopt him.
Okay, so he thought he was adopted.
I believe so, yeah.
Got it. Oh, that's rough. Now I feel bad because in real life, that's rough. I mean, that's terrible.
No shit. Oh, now you feel bad.
Yeah. No, I thought like he knew all along he wasn't adopted. Okay, I got it. No. If he just found out that they never adopted him, that's terrible.
Right, and they swindled him somehow about the movie rights, the story. It sounds like a messy thing. I didn't have the time yet to read the whole thing, but
think about the mind of sick people, because I know how you are, and I know how I am when we get nervous about something, or these people knew what they did, supposedly, allegedly, whatever. Right? They make a movie. The movie blows up, becomes one of these famous movies. She wins an Oscar. It's, everyone cites this movie. It's part of the pop culture lexicon, blah, blah, blah. And the whole time they know that they're a complete farce. Like the anxiety, I don't know how people can do things like that.
Right. I tell the truth and I get anxiety about certain things that blow up. And how about you? You have Milli Vanilli. It's a similar thing. These guys.
I love that story. That's a great story.
They're winning Grammys and they know that they lip sync.
And you know what? I don't care. Their songs are great. I still listen to their music. I have no issues with them faking it. If the song is good, I don't care who's singing it.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's just, you're right. Like the whole thing, it's a fraud. I mean, I would not be able to deal with that.
But it also shows you too, like we all get like worked up about like awards, and here they are winning a Grammy, and they didn't even sing the song.
Yeah, right. I know.
But Blame It on the Rain should win an award. It's a great song. That's the bottom line.
You would. Only you hates Rudy but loves Milli Vanilli.
Absolutely.
Come on.
The music.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Rudy. Oh my God.
No, I get it.
Field of Dreams. Walking in the cornfield. Oh my God. Give me a break. But don't you see? I think overall sports movies are usually terrible. What do you think of that statement? I
enjoy certain ones. I mean, a lot of times they're corny or goofy. Like, do you not like Major League?
I like Major League. It's a comedy.
Okay, right. Okay, but so you what? You don't like the serious sports movies?
I don't like every movie with the underdog comes through. Okay, got it. Seen it a million times.
You realize that they're based on true stories.
I understand.
Rudy was a true story. Like, that's a real thing. Right. An uplifting story. Blindsided, we thought was a real story. Turns out not. But
what if we find out Rudy was fake?
Oh, forget it. I won't be able to deal with it.
That's too funny.
My whole life will be a farce. Rocky, you don't like the Rockies?
The first three.
Okay. I love them all. But... Do you like some sports movies?
Some. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what was one of my favorites?
My favorite movie. My favorite sports
program?
movie. I have not seen the program.
Okay.
My favorite sports movie is Varsity Blues.
I like that one.
Should have won an Oscar.
Fire that fucking pigskin.
That movie is one of those movies. It's on TBS on like Saturday at 4:00, and I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I love it. I like that movie. You loved what's the one you put me onto with clear eyes, full heart?
Friday Night Lights.
There you go. You love that.
Not the movie, the show.
Okay.
Big difference. I love that show. That show, I'll end it on this. That show was came out sort of like at the peak of hot clicks.
Yeah,
I would literally bribe people to watch it. Like I would say, if you watch it, I will give you this, I will give you that. Like I did everything. I mean, I love that show so much. I had so many of the cast members I've interviewed, over the years.
I didn't know who Minka Kelly was until I started reading Hot Clicks. Yeah, I know.
Wow. And you know
who would you love more, Jeter or Minka Kelly?
It was close. You know that on the last day that I ever did Hot Clicks before I left SI before returning, there was like this big. I mean, if I did it now, I would have got fired. But there was this big thing like, who's going to be the last ever lovely lady of the day? And I gave it to Minka Kelly, and she sent a tweet like, congrats and best of luck on the new gig.
Wow. I mean, I probably knew that at the time, but hearing it again. Right. Now, what'd you do? You screenshot that? I mean, how many? You screenshot that? Print out a nice 8x10?
Retweet, save, bookmark, the whole, Oh, God. Back when things were fun, unlike now where you can't have fun.
That's
Can't
great.
have fun.
Well, we have fun.
Yeah, minimal. If we really wanted to have fun, I would tell everyone what's been going on with trying to book this podcast this week.
Oh, my God. Well, save that for after you get the guests on. Then you tell the story.
Yeah, I'm just saying if the guests reach out and say they'll come on, it would be nice if they come on. But we'll just leave it at that. All right, Sal.
All right.
We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, take it easy. All right, my thanks to Peter Schrager and Sal Licata. If you are not a subscriber and enjoyed the episode, hit that subscribe button on SI Media with Jimmy Traina, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, anywhere. Subscribe to the pod. If you missed any recent episodes, check them out in the archives. Chris Mad Dog Russo was on the pod 2 weeks ago. WWE superstars Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes were on the pod in recent weeks. So check all that out in the archives. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave a review on Apple. We'll read it on the pod in a couple of weeks. All right, that wraps it up. Appreciate you guys listening. Stay safe and take care. We'll see you next week.